Good morning, and a good morning it is, because it's a big day. If you guys look just to my right, your left, whatever it is, you're gonna see something sitting right here. The guys over at Department of Power, Bruno and all the team over there, got our engine to us. It's finally here. It had to make its way from Pennsylvania all the way out to us, but this thing is new from bottom to top. New bearings, polished crank, transmission, board carb. We don't have the carb here yet. We'll get there. Ported head, all the fixings. This engine is gonna be a ripper, and I can't thank those guys enough for working hard to get this thing done and to us before the race. I can finally install this thing today. So you guys are gonna see me put the engine in and hopefully get it running. I've got some carbs and boots around here. I can get it running. But something else really cool happened. We picked up 2 more sponsors for the race. First, Brad and Chad NFT. I'll leave the website right here so you guys can go check them out, but they stepped up in a big way. They gave us $500 towards the Race to Race 22 fund, which that will also be in the description. We're over $4,000 now. We kicked the crap out of last year's mark. We're at 4,000, we're still going for 5. Let's see if we can get there, but those guys donated $500 to that and helped cover entry fees and the cost of building this thing. So those guys stepped up in a huge way. They wanted to support us, they support what we're doing, so thank you to those guys. You guys can find their website and go check them out. The other one is Pineland Rustic Furniture. This is a friend of mine, veteran owned and operated business, but he makes some beautiful stuff out of wood, and he handed me this and $250 to cover our gas. So he covered our fuel for the race, our race fuel anyway, and he makes some really cool stuff out of wood. It's not just cutting boards and charcuterie boards, okay, fellas? He makes all kinds of stuff. So go find him, follow him. If you guys have anything you want for the house, he can make it. He's fantastic. He's a good woodworker, and it's a veteran owned and operated business. Go support your veterans, man. So thank you to Scott for getting this to me, and the $250 towards our race fuel. That is huge. So that basically helps us cover the entire race. Now, without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video and start installing this engine. But before we dive into the rest of the machine, getting the engine in there and everything, I've got something really cool to show you guys. A little bit of unboxing. Something just showed up in the mail. So, as of the release of this video, Lone Star has done a release of their own. Something that I saw on one of their Instagram posts, and I hit these guys up about, and was real curious because we had another set of pegs and heel guards ordered, but they weren't gonna make it in time with powder coat and machines going down. Things just weren't gonna make it in time. So I hit these guys up, said it was kind of an emergency. We'd like to get these real quick. So Lone Star went ahead and whipped them up and got them to us. And as far as I know, there's only 2 versions of these so far, and they just released them. But let me introduce you guys to the very first, oh my God, I hate packing peanuts, Lone Star XC heel guards. So these ones are one of the 2 versions. These are the non-tabbed version. There's a version where there's a tab that bolts up to the subframe, and then there's a version that's kind of universal where there's no tab and everything bolts to your pro peg and everything goes to your frame. But this is the very first set that I know of that anybody's run yet, and it's going on Project Nomad for Vegas to Reno, and we're gonna put 500 miles on these things first thing out the gate. So I'm extremely excited. Let's get these things out of the plastic so you guys can see what's going on here. But they look sweet. Cut some of the plastic off. But when I called these guys and asked them about it, they said, we may have a set made because we're kind of messing with it still, but if we do, I'll hit you back and you can get the first set. So I said, deal, let's do it. Now, something that's a little bit different on these from a lot of your Pro Peg heel guards and things like that, or like Nerf bar heel guards, these are steel hoops. A lot of your other heel guards would be aluminum, but these, as far as I know, the construction is a lot of steel in these. They're a little bit heavier, but if you're running just the heel guard, I guess that kind of makes up for the weight of an entire Nerf bar, doesn't it? So far, really not that heavy, but my God, did these look good. So there's your normal Pro peg right here. So here's your Pro peg mount. This goes to the Pro peg that goes to the frame. Slide this on, run your bolts through, and it looks like these pegs are already bolted to it, ready to go, and they feel just as sharp as like the Wrath Monster pegs. I mean, there's a lot of cheese grater in there. And then, like I said, these don't have that extra tab that comes off and goes to your subframe and normally bolts where other ones would. But something we can worry about in the future. For now, with these steel hoops and the Pro pegs and how everything mounts, I'm not worried about it. I just want the heel guards in the way. Last year we ran a set of stock pegs with some Wrath pegs wrapped around them, and I found a way to drill holes and then put the stock heel guards on, which are plastic and what looks like wire. So these look like a worthy replacement for all that other stuff, and I can't wait to get these on the machine. So thank you, Lone Star, for getting these to us so quick. Can't wait to run them. And here's your first look at a set of the Lone Star Pro Peg XC heel guards, which is a new product they just added to the website. Man, so the fit and finish on these is really good. I mean, nice clean welds and powder coat and everything. Everything's nice and straight and solid. Everything came pre-assembled, pretty much ready to go. And another thing I noticed is we're running 22s. I mean, that's what we run out in the desert. And we always wonder if we're gonna be able to clear, and it looks like no issues with this heel guard being able to clear. Now, like I mentioned earlier, they have another model that has a tab that comes off of the top of the heel guard right here, and it bolts back in the location where your normal fender bracket bolts. All right, I didn't get those because we didn't really have the time. This is what they were able to get to me in the amount of time that I had. So I got these, and I'm really not worried about it. It's just another extra piece on there. Maybe in the future I'll try that, but so far I'm really impressed with these, and I know I'll have those diehards that are say roll or nothing or anything like that, or oh, LSR sucks. I don't think so. In fact, I've been pretty impressed with some of their stuff, and I'm willing to try it. You know, I want to try new things and mess with it and see what I get out of it. You know, my experience is I've had good Alba stems and I've had good Tusk rear axles make it years. So you really never know until you try it. I did get rid of some roll design stuff, but I'm willing to try some other things and see what the best is to offer from other companies. So really impressed with these, and I'm happy to run them. So we're gonna give these a shot. Okay, now that the foot pegs are on there and solidly mounted and ready to go, before we put the engine in, I've got this sweet little unit right here, skid plate from Slick Rock Gear, fresh one. We used one last year we really liked, so we're gonna use another one this year. It's kind of a different version, but gotta zip this on before the engine goes in so that I'm not trying to reach bolts up with an engine in there. So let's get that in right now. Real nice skid plate. Got these nice flat heads on here and the recessed holes, so everything sits nice and flat on this skid plate. First to go in real easy, and then we'll just work our way back. Got the next one right here, it's a double, and then the two holes in the rear here actually mount to your factory skid plate mounts, which is really nice, so it just goes straight to the frame. You don't have to use those clamps everywhere. Good stuff. Okay, get the double in here. Our oil cooler lines, get those out of the way real quick. Set that up. Get the first one through. Whoops. Gotta hold that in place. Nice. Sweet. There's one. Just gotta get the other. All right, let's see if I can't shoehorn this thing in there. Oh, I really want to be careful with it because it has such a nice Cerakote all over the cases and the head and all that. So got a little spacer down there. Make sure that I don't rest this thing directly on the tabs. There we go. And then get that little nub on the case for the kicker in there. Then I've got a cardboard spacer underneath the engine. It's just a bunch of folded cardboard, so it keeps the engine lifted up off of the little tabs because I don't want to bend those. But it looks as if she went right in there. And now I can work the swing arm up and put the swing arm bolt through. Everything seems to be lining up so far. It's resting. It's in its home. All right, now I've got the swing arm supported by a jack stand back here. All I gotta do is kind of run it forward, see if I can work the bolt in. Okay, kind of get that started in there anyway. Oh, slides right around the case. Come on, baby. Get in there. Okay, get the bolt started in the swing arm. And then I can move the engine case around a little bit to get the bolt in there as well. It's like fishing. Okay, I have the bolt in there. And kind of tip the engine back. Take that spacer out. And then get the swing arm worked around the engine cases with the spacers in there. There we go. Oh, there she goes. A little bit of effort. Little bit of effort. Come around to the other side and give this a shot. All right, we're through the engine case. Get through to the other side here. If I have to, just give her a little tap-a-roo with the old dead blow.
All you got to do is just tap it in. Just tap it in now.
There she goes.
Tap it in. Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, tap-a-roo.
And we have the pivot bolt in. All right, let's get the rest of the engine bolts in now. I won't torque this down just yet, but when I do, I'm also going to drill a hole in the end of the bolt and run a cotter pin through just to make sure that this nut doesn't back all the way out. Because that does happen, although not common, it does happen. Jason found these sweet engine mounts from ESR. I guess they're ESR TRX engine mounts. They're freaking gnarly looking. Anodized, CNC'd, beautiful. However, couldn't find it for anything 06 plus, of course. Take a little weight off the engine. There. Now we're in there. Back here, there's a gusset welded on top of the frame, and it wasn't allowing this lower case bolt to clear because it needs to sit down. There's a notch in these Honda frames that allows the bottom bolts down here to clear the frame. And that weld on the gusset filled it right in. So shaved it down, a little Dremel tool, and painted it. I got a little chassis paint, so I hit that, and now it's good to go. It's really close to the frame, so I'm not too happy about that, but it will work. Okay, we're actually in day 2 right now. I had to take a break on the engine yesterday. It was kicking my butt for a little bit there. There were a few bolts in the frame that were a little bit stripped out, so I had to go get some different bolts and realign some things. I also had to shave the frame down a bit because of that extra weld on there that didn't need to be there, but it's all good now. The engine's in there. I added some hoses and things and rewired some stuff, but now we're going to continue, start bolting in the kicker and the brake pedal and all that stuff, and then I can start filling this with fluids and get to the exhaust and get this thing fired up for today. So let's get back to it. Woo. Brake pedal is sharp. Added the Forworks extended brake pedal. That little pad on there is mighty sharp. Should give us some good grip though. Get the kicker on there. And yes, I'm going to use some red Loctite on the bolt that holds that kicker in, because these are basically unobtainium now. Good luck finding a kicker at a decent price. That's OEM anyway. Very hard to find these days. Looking good. All right, on this side, I already got the 15-tooth front sprocket installed. We're gonna mess with that again this year since we have a different sized engine. We're gonna run 15-tooth again and see if that does a little bit better. We were a little underpowered for it last year. We should have the power for it this year. But another piece I really like, you might already see part of it back here, but we got the DRW case saver and the chain slider as well, because they meant to go together. Otherwise you have to cut your stock chain slider, and that's just ugly. But one of the features I really appreciate about these DRW case savers is this little hole right here for the shifter to come through. It's almost like it braces it as well, but it's a really nice piece. Fully encapsulates the front sprocket and everything, keeps your case safe. It's strong, durable, and we really liked it last year, so we're gonna run it again. Gently. And then I'll do it by hand right after. So you really don't want to go past like 10 foot-pounds with these, if that even. This is always kind of a crowning moment. Put the cherry on top when you start putting the exhaust on. Now we tried to get a Rossier because it's a fantastic exhaust, but he is busy right now fixing some issues he's had over at the shop and trying to get some other orders out. They were all out of them, which I'm not surprised because it's a very good exhaust. So we went with good old-fashioned Sparks. Can't go wrong with a Sparks exhaust either. This is kind of Jason's baby. He loves a Spark exhaust. I used to run one on my LTR actually. Good stuff. So can't go wrong with that either. Slide this bad boy on there. All right. Whoops. Ooh, she's still loose. There we go. Always leave all your exhaust bolts loose before everything's in place and angled how you want it. Then go back through and tighten everything. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting a lot of different things, just going to bind up on you. So, ooh, looks good. All right. Now that the exhaust is on, I can start worrying about getting a carburetor on here and getting this thing started so we can at least get some break-in going. This is a brand new engine, so we've got about an hour break-in time I've got to put on this. So the carburetor we're going to use is an FCR. However, it's been modified to fit the 05 airbox, and the one I'm about to put on is actually one of my carbs. I'm just pulling it off of my bike. Warrig is sitting over there giving up his parts to make sure that Nomad can live. But when I put this on there, it's just going to be there simply to start. I gave Jeff Schrick a call at OCP last night, and he was kind enough to answer and basically just put all my worries to rest and say that the carb that we have on hand right now is plenty for this thing and should be good enough to get it started at least. So FCR going on. You'll see this one doesn't have the adapter because that's mine, so we'll pop it on. Should have enough jet in it to at least get this engine started, idle it, and get some time on it, which is good because that's what we need right now. Seat the rings and everything. Luckily, I don't need the airbox on there to get this thing running. So lots of cool things you can do with these Hondas to basically get them modified and add horsepower and all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, my God, it's been 10 years. Yeah, it's been about 10 years since they've made one, so had all kinds of time to figure out different stuff. Keep these things running. So yes, there is writing on the wall to go get a Yamaha, but not yet, not yet. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start putting some of the controls on. So I got this clutch cable perch right here, goes on the engine case. Bruno left these bolts nice and loose for me, so I could go ahead and put that on right away. Now I just got to get the cable in here. Always easier to do it off the machine. Then run the nut down. Nice. Get our arm around. And in all our spare parts, we got this nice fresh cable. Always nice. All right, and then I can kind of snake this cable up before I actually bolt anything down. Pull the bolts out, bolt it up. Only one really annoying thing here. These oil caps on these Hondas are in the way of this front bolt. Design oversight, maybe? I don't know. And again, since these are going into the side case here, you don't want to go nuts ramming these things home, because then you're going to strip out the case. All right. If you read the Honda owner's manual, everything on the case is like 7 foot-pounds. It's not much. And now time to put on these nice ASV levers we got. And now let's line everything up and run this clutch cable through. Right on. Here comes some breather hoses. That's another weird thing between the 05 to 06 models. Breather hoses are all different. Gotta fish this one around. This still goes to the head like normal, but then you just have two on this side of the crankcase versus on the 06 Pluses they have a breather on the other side in the stator cover. That guy would normally go up to the plastic cover, but I'm not going to put that on because I want to fire this thing first. And then if there's any issues, I don't have to pull all that off or sneak around it or anything like that. So I'd rather just get the breather hoses on and then worry about that stuff afterwards. Okay, time to put in some transmission oil. So what I'm removing right here is actually a little sight bolt. When you pull this out of the side of the case, you start filling it with fluid. As soon as it starts to reach the threads, then you're full. Tried and true method. And of course, on the transmission side, I always use Honda Lubes Pro Honda 80W85. Use this stuff for a long time. Works really well. That's another thing I kind of like about Honda, is the transmission oil is separate from the engine oil. So you're never really mixing the two. There it goes. Starting to drip out. We are full on the transmission side. I should have put a paper towel under there earlier. Whoops. I've already checked. Bruno went ahead and left us an oil filter in there. Thank you. And this side's pretty simple. We got a high and low mark on the sight glass, and we're using our favorite Blood Racing Scorpion Blood 1550. This stuff, durable. It's really my favorite part here, is this durable oil. And I know on Hondas after 06, it's roughly 0.6 quarts. I think we have a little bit more in this one. Yeah. Obviously I have to cycle the engine and get some oil in there, so it's going to pull some more, but for now we are at the high mark, and then we can cycle some through there. It's obviously going to take more because we have that oil cooler in here, so it's got to fill the lines, fill the oil cooler, and come back down. So, and now for some coolant. And of course we're filling the radiator with my favorite, some engine ice. Keep this thing cool. I've also had good luck with this stuff. Coolant bottles all hooked up, good. Our overflow. And then I can also check for any leaks. Because again, this was a used radiator. We are using all kinds of spare parts and used parts and stuff like that, so gotta be extra vigilant with that. Give the thermostat side a little squeeze. See a bubble. Pulling a little bit more coolant in. All right. I think that's all we're gonna get in there for now. And I'll have to check this all again as soon as we're done cycling the engine, because it's gonna pull coolant in and fill all of the little coolant passages and everything like that. So, almost time. Let's get the fuel tank and put that on top. Run a little fuel in here. All right, let's zip down our IMS tank. 3.8 gallons. I have a feeling that this quad is going to be sucking down fuel, so better to have as much of it as you can. And now I'm dropping bolts. This is fun. All right. All right. Go to the other side. There we go. I don't have to go all the way down. I just need to get it on there enough to hold fuel and run it into the carb. And we have some clearance. It's always nerve-wracking and exciting when you're putting fuel in it for the first time. And yes, if you're wondering, we do have a dry brake for it. We just haven't put it on yet. Took us a minute to get one. They're expensive. And I'm chugging a little bit of 110 in there since we have slightly higher compression. All right, don't need it all. And a little pro tip. Well, I shouldn't say pro tip, not really a pro. However, something I found out, I went and got one of those little half breather hoses that look cool, and you stick them on top of the cap and has a little knob on top. Those are only good for pulling air in. So when your fuel is draining, as your quad is running, it will pull air in to let it breathe so that the fuel will flow and it won't lock up, but it won't blow out. We need the open hose, which IMS sends this with the tank when you get the dry brake tank. You need the open hose because as you're filling it with the dry brake, you need to, basically you need the tank to breathe out so that the fuel can flow and fill it faster. That's the whole point of having it. So run the open hose, don't run the stupid little half hose. I figured that out by literally blowing on it, so. Oh boy, here we go. Okay, all I'm doing right now is pull the kill switch and cycle this thing a few times to get a little fuel moving, get some oil moving around in there. So I don't want to start this thing dry. That would be terrible. Oh, she's got some compression. All right. And it looks like it's working. I hooked up power to the Trail Tech through the ignition. And it looks like it's working because it's turning on every time I kick it over. So there's actually some voltage being generated, which is good. That's what we need. Put the kill switch back in. It is a pain because I put it under there, but centrally located and it doesn't drag on anything, so that's always nice. Okay, here we go. First start, let's see if it even works. Better make sure it's actually shooting fuel first. Oh yeah, we have fuel. Oh yeah. Here we go. I don't know if we have spark. That's the next thing. Okay, generating voltage. So let's just make sure everything's plugged in. See if the lights come on as I kick. That would be nice. Yep, okay. All right, I figured it out. I had a bad switch block. Somehow I had another switch block that I just plugged in. I wasn't getting spark. Plugged the other one in. Now I'm getting spark. So we're good there. So I'm gonna fire this thing up. This is the first time you guys are gonna hear it, and I hope it sounds good. All right, don't mind the cell phone. Getting other video. Oh, might want to put the kill switch in. That would help a lot. Always something. Okay. Kill switch is in now. Rookie mistake. And the Trail Tech is reading. Here we go. That should be coolant temp. And then we've got our voltage. Reading nothing right now. This is running off of key power. It sounds good. Oh. I'm sweating it out here, but this thing is running pretty well right now. It's idled down. Oh, that was nice. There we go. Running off a Dynatech CDI. I'm not too familiar with those right now, but it's on stock maps. So super happy to get this thing running. It's 10:30 at night. Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna come back out, mess with this. Right now, it's just cycling. It's got a fan on it right now. Kind of breaking it in a little bit, but man, so happy to get this running. Now tomorrow I can start buttoning this thing up. So when I come back out here, you guys are gonna see me start slapping plastics and everything back together and really get this thing dialed in. All right, here we are, day 3. Basically yesterday you guys saw me get this thing fired up for the first time. Thank God it's running. But since then, what you guys haven't seen is I've basically had an existential crisis with the wiring, and Jason basically took a call at midnight last night and tapped me off the ledge a little bit. So got through it, worked out a bunch of electrical bugs. It's actually about 9 o'clock at night again, but I've spent all day messing with wiring issues. We weren't getting any power to the lights or the fan, which is a big deal, so I had to work through that today. But it's running. I've got the lights fixed, I've got everything fixed, everything's in place now. I can basically start putting all the finishing touches on. So fuel tank will go on permanently, carburetor's here, which I gotta show you guys that thing. Bruno, last minute, I used my carb to get it started, but this is the carb we're actually going to be running. So we have I think it's a CRF FCR, but this thing has hot start choke on it. I mean, this thing looks pretty tricked out. Bruno got this thing done, boarded out for us. I think it's 43.5 millimeters, but this is the one we're going to be using, especially because I need this right here. We're going to run a 05 airbox, so I need this adapter on the FCR carb so we can run the 05 airbox. If you guys aren't tracking, the 05 airboxes have a larger boot, so you have to put this on there and the angles line up so that it fits. Otherwise, the 06 Pluses, it was just going to be a nightmare. So we're going to go ahead and run this thing. Thank you, Bruno, for getting this to us. This is our last piece right here. Basically, I get it on, get this thing running again. I have to set the accelerator pump and mess with a few things, but basically it's time to start buttoning this thing up. So let's get to it. Well, as I was working on this thing last night, trying to button it all up so I could ride it, I found something out about the airbox. We got an adapter that's supposed to adapt a 05 airbox so that you can put an 06 Plus TRX foam filter in there. However, I found out that the twin air filters that we have, by the way, that adapter is extremely hard to get inside that boot, but I got it. The twin air filters have a smaller opening than my Uni 06 Plus filters. Even though these say 06 Plus, you can see the openings are two different diameters. So the twin airs won't fit over the adapter that we just got. It's a nice machined aluminum velocity adapter, but I'm gonna have to use my Unis instead, so that's kind of a sad day. However, I also had to do something else because it's an 05 airbox. The Uni filters are too long, especially with the adapter on there. So I had to go and modify my cage for the Uni adapter, or for the Uni filters. So now I'm gonna show you guys what that's about. There you see the aluminum adapter. So it's a nice piece. JC Racing, I think, makes it very tight to get in here. I actually had to use a little hook to pull the rubber boot up and around and kind of work it around the ring. But I've got it in there now. It's nice and tight, not going anywhere. Nice velocity intake. However, this diameter is too big for those twin air filters. And because this sticks out that much further, I can't use the original cage because the cage actually slides on the inside of the boot, but this velocity intake tapers down too much, so I can't use the original cage for my Uni filter. So I ended up just cutting it up. So I took the tab off the end. That actually broke off a long time ago, but that will now clear this and flatten this side out, basically cut the tang off there, the flange, and now it fits in here, so you can just slide it onto the adapter with the filter, tighten it down, and then this cage will hold the filter rigid so that it doesn't collapse as we're running. So, and then you can see right there I had to modify the box so that this would clear. Otherwise, it would be hitting there's a little tower right here that usually takes a little bolt and holds the end of the filter, but that's gone because this wouldn't fit without it. So there's my debacle. This thing has been throwing punches at me for a while now with strip bolts and all kinds of random things that don't fit because we're trying to modify things, and stuff is close, but not quite there. I'm almost done. So I'm back at it again today. Now I can put the plastics on. I also found out that the rear fender stays on an 05 are different than on an 06 Plus. Where they mount to the subframe is different, so I had to go find some of those. But now we're rolling again. I'm gonna go tighten this thing up and be done. All right, this has been a struggle. I've ran into a lot of random little issues and things that just don't match up, but finally, plastics, seat on, everything's in there, this thing's running. I just need to get a chain and bleed brakes at this point. So, last piece of the puzzle here as far as the body goes, kind of the cherry on top, is our Forworks hood. Gonna put this puppy on, finish the touch, and then hopefully take this thing out for a ride. Well, that's gonna do it for this build video, everybody. It was a heck of a time trying to get this thing together. It's been a long time coming, all kinds of snafus and problems like that, but we worked through it. We got the thing together. Thank you to everybody that contributed and put something into this machine or sent something to us or donated or whatever you did. Thank you so much, because we got this thing together and we are ready to go Vegas to Reno and try to whoop some. Anyway, thanks for coming along, guys. The riding is gonna be in the next video. I'll take it out for a couple test rides, but I've gotta shake this thing down before we go out. I leave Monday, it's Saturday, so I gotta get this thing out this weekend and give it a few shakedowns and see how far we can go on a tank of gas. But thank you for coming along, and I will catch you guys in the next video.